What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. We had some exciting news that came out yesterday. Mike Williams, our star-studded number 2 wide receiver, has been activated off the PUP list after passing his physical, and he's a week ahead of schedule. Robert Salas mentioned this a number of times. He's on the Breece Hall timeline. Last year, August 15th, we activated Breece. So this is a good sign that there's a little bit of a expedition here in his rehab process. But there's so many questions that I have into how the rest of his offseason will play out, right? You think about the joint practices occurring today. Will the New York Jets actually allow Mike Williams to go out there and do anything more than maybe some conditioning stuff, some rehab, some individual drills? If it's me, I'm continuing to place him in bubble wrap. Aaron Rodgers and Mike Williams being our two most pivotal players on the offense, returning from some version of a significant injury, it makes the most sense to just save them for when the games actually matter. And, at least if we, knock on wood, have an injury at that point, it doesn't. Not that it doesn't matter, but there's nothing that can be done about it, right? The Jets have played everything perfectly in the offseason and not risk anything in particular. And so if it happens, it happens. That's the nature of football. But two, it's also great that guys are going to get knocked down into the proper places in the depth chart, at least until we continue to see who proves that they're outperforming spots, right? Allen Lazard, Malik Taylor, Jason Brownlee, Irvin Charles, the likes of those guys that are rotated in between first and second string unit, they will now fall back into their proper places, and you can kind of get maybe a better gauge for who could be a potential Allen Lazard replacement in the event a crazy trade happens, right? Or maybe they look to truly go out there and cut him. Or, in my case, I think all of that's pretty unlikely. In the event, who can challenge him for his role, right? I know he's picked up special teams duties, but there's nothing to say that he's excelled at those or anything of the nature. Nonetheless, those guys will go. And then I would expect educated guess here. We know Saleh likes to slow play things, so I would imagine they'll stick to individual drills. And I've covered this pretty early in training camp recaps that the focus in a lot of these practices has there's been an emphasis on individual work, right? Technique, fundamentals, and a lot more drills that simulate actual football movements and skills that they would need to utilize on the field, as opposed to just jumping jacks and running the length of the field and stuff for conditioning work. So happy to see all of that. And then finally, when it does come to practices, and actually kind of going back into that, along the lines of the thinking of them slow playing things, that ultimately means that he may not see a ton of 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills, the gotta have it stuff that we've seen broken down during each of these recaps. But nonetheless, what will happen when it actually comes to these practices? I mean, he can go out there and actually work in team settings. Sauce Gardner has already talked about this. Jeff Ulbrich is fed into the rumors that he could be following the top weapon on the other field, or the top weapon for the opponents. In this case, our top weapon would be Garrett Wilson. Will Sauce Gardner follow him? And then DJ Reed has the unenviable task of having to go against Mike Williams, or will they keep things pretty synonymous with what we've seen in the regular season, where Sauce Gardner, who's going to cover whoever's on the left, DJ Reed on the right, and maybe they roll coverage to help out, etc., etc. But it will be an interesting piece. If it's me, I'm assuming Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson are going to have a lot more battles coming up. Meanwhile, Mike Williams is going to be going back into his X role, which means DJ Reed will be picking up that matchup. And he's already lost most of his battles against Garrett Wilson, although, as mentioned Tuesday, he won that particular day pretty handily, where there was almost no completions for Garrett Wilson to be found. So we know he can match up. I still view him as another CB1 on our roster. But Mike Williams is a different beast. There's a lot of jump ball situations that DJ Reed is going to have essentially no chance to be able to stop. There's going to be a lot of situations, especially with Rodgers' accuracy, where just the length of Mike Williams is going to be able to allow a lot of back shoulder throws, leading him to certain landmarks that DJ Reed is just going to have to always be in a perfect position for to even attempt to defend. And I don't want to say there's little to no chance that he's going to be able to outmuscle him in some situations to maybe force some incompletions, but it's not all that likely, right? So on paper, you could probably write DJ Reed's stock down for the rest of the offseason with some of the matchups he's going to be drawing. Nonetheless, it's going to make him a better guy for the regular season, especially when he does have to face some of these other guys. Although, for what it's worth mentioning, he has faced, years past, the likes of a Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson and stuff, and hasn't always been above average or even excellent, but it's definitely been, I think, above expectations for what his physical limitations would be. So nonetheless, very excited to hear this news, especially in the midst of more Hassan Reddick sadness and the distraction and all that's going on around him. But let me know what you guys think. What do you expect to happen for the remainder of the offseason as it pertains to Mike Williams? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.